Sick of being a dead fish? Want to be the ace in the hole? Well, get your jammies jumping and prepare for a sock hop of a guide. Introducing Aku's patent 5 useful tips for beginners.
Okay, cut. All jokes aside, here's a few tips I think would have helped me a ton when I first started playing Tarkov. First up on the list is going to be poking. If you're not familiar with this term, it's derived from League of Legends. While this game in no way is exactly similar to League, there are some traits that make the playstyle in certain instances similar. Well, maybe just this one. When I say this, it's doing a small amount of damage to a PMC without committing to a fight, i.e. not hard holding an angle or pushing into an area without exactly knowing what you're getting yourself into beforehand. This method is very strong when it comes to collecting information and doing a small amount of damage to your enemy, essentially giving you an advantage no matter how slight and increasing your chances of being on the winning end of an engagement. The point of this tactic is to poke and prod at your enemy to figure out what they are doing and what you should do in the situation. Think of it as like a stall tactic, while simultaneously thinking about the best way to take the fight. As you can see from this footage, I'm constantly moving, rotating around while doing fast peeks and pre-firing just to chip away at the enemy's HP. I'm dropping bags.
Короче, капец тебе, служивый! Патронов нет-то?
And that's how you poke. As a new player, I never really understood the necessity of grenades. When you first load into your stash, it's hard to have a complete understanding of the economy in this game and what you should and shouldn't be spending your rubles on. With so many different items in the game, it can be a bit overwhelming at first. But in every instance, it's always going to be worth it to have at least one grenade on you at all times. I mean, think about it. The amount of usage you can get from a single grenade is actually insane. One single piece of utility can help flush out enemy out of a tight angle or confined place, essentially giving you information on the enemy's location. So it's a good way to clear an area when you're unsure on where someone could be or if there's a PMC in the general vicinity of where you tossed the grenade. Alternatively, you can use a grenade to mask the sounds of movement. As you can see from this clip, this is a good way to catch a PMC off guard. How you execute this is simply by understanding the timing of a grenade. While I know this may sound hard, but it just takes a bit of practice. Quickly peek, toss grenade, wait a few seconds, then push it's about to explode. The sound from the explosion will almost completely mask the sound of your push. If you're having a hard time getting the hang of doing this, a good thing to do in order to get the hang of it is to load into an offline raid, which moves us on to our next tip. When launching Tarkov for the first time, it can be a bit intimidating. There's a good amount of maps and each one can seem like a labyrinth. Trying to work your way through a maze while simultaneously dodging shots from scavs and enemy PMCs. It gets quite hectic, especially if you're not familiar with the style of game or what sounds should be alarming and which sounds aren't really a cause for concern. This is where running offline raids comes in handy when you're starting to learn the game and you can successfully escape or extract from Tarkov. During an offline raid, you can practice against hiding with the AIs without having any fear of losing your gear or having to worry about enemy PMCs. It's also just a big way to learn and explore the maps, getting a good idea of where certain landmarks are so you can get a feel for your surroundings. On top of all that, it gives you a chance to see where good loot spawns are and what kind of spawns in certain locations. This is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tool at your disposal. In order to load into an offline raid, all you have to do is press escape at the main menu, select your map, and then choose your time. At this point, you just select offline mode and now you have various settings you can mess around with, like the amount of AI that spawn, the difficulty of them, and whether or not a boss will be spawned in. Also, if you and a friend have Edge of Darkness or EOD edition of the game, you can co-op in offline modes together. This way, if you're both still learning, you can do it together. EOD partner. Moving forward. Get it? Moving forward? It's a bad joke. Well, this brings us to our next tip. Movement. Unlike other games you may have played, EFT has inertia in it. What this is, to simply put it, is momentum. The more you weigh, the slower you move, and it takes longer to make drastic movements. When watching other streamers, you may see them drop their backpack a lot when they're approaching a high traffic area, or if they think they're about to be engaging into a fight. The reason behind this is to lower their weight and allow them to move around more freely. If you weigh a lot, sometimes your stamina won't gain because of this, which leaves you at a point where you have to literally crawl or stand still in order to gain stamina. This is a rather important thing to do, especially if you find yourself in areas where you're more likely to be involved into a gunfight. You really don't want all that loot weighing you down and be the reason you lose an engagement. In order to drop your bag quickly, just double tap Z. Disclaimer: please try and use some kind of landmarking or object to remember the general area where you dropped your bag. While winning a fight is always nice, it's even better when you can make it out with all the loot that you found.
Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit.
So let's talk about something that most of you are probably here for: gunplay and mechanics. When it comes to PvP in Tarkov, there can be a lot of variables outside of your control. A big thing I've come to realize in any form of competitive game or shooting game is to always focus on the things that you can control. With that being said, having a better understanding of the guns and mechanics in the game can really be learned through just playing and using the tricks I mentioned before. But there are a few things I want to talk about in this section of the video before we wrap up. When it comes to getting into a gunfight, it's always going to be a good idea to check to make sure you have a sufficient amount of ammo. You can do this by pressing Alt-T and then checking or switching the fire rate of your weapon or which mode it's currently on. Do this simply by pressing Alt-B. To switch the firing mode, just press B. Now, I know this may seem like a very simple thing, but I can't stress how many times when I first started playing that I forgot to check which fire mode my weapon is on, and I swing, shoot one bullet, and die. So please be sure to check this as much as you need to. Now, with that being said, you're not always going to want to be full spraying your weapon. Within 30 meters of an enemy, I can understand the point in spraying or burst firing, but anything after that, it's always going to be a good idea to just tap and aim for headshots or any vital area. That way you're not consuming a heavy amount of your ammo. When starting out, it's a good idea to have an ammo chart pulled up to see which ammo is the best and what's really going to do the most amount of damage in the least amount of rounds used. This comes in handy quite often when you're first getting adjusted to the game, so you know how much you'll have to hit your enemy to effectively kill them. Another big thing when it comes to gunplay is going to be knowing your way around your attachments. It's a good idea to have an understanding of what guns are currently in the meta at the time, especially when you're first starting out on a wipe. For example, I personally run the UMP or the PP19 at the start of a wipe. Both these guns are very cost efficient and the recoil is quite smooth, so you can dump into any target without really having to worry about missing so many shots or much kick up. And that's everything. I really hope this helps any new player joining this wonderful community. As someone who's been in and out of various shooters over the years, I will say this: Tarkov by far has been one of the kindest and most supportive communities I've ever been a part of. There is no other community that I've ran into or been a part of that's quite like it. I hope this helps you on your new journey. If you ever need any extra help with tasks or have any questions, please feel free to join the Discord. And if you're watching this shortly after it's uploaded, I'm currently live on Twitch. So feel free to come by and let me know what you thought of the video, and be sure to like and subscribe if it helped you out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.